Hey, you. Looking to hire an Apple Watch developer?
Smart move.
Yeah. In this mini deep dive, we're going to answer the most common questions about hiring for this unique role.
Absolutely.
And hey, if you're looking for expert help with software development hiring, you should definitely check out theperfectdeveloper.com.
Great resource.
They've got answers to just about everything.
Yeah.
But first, let's tackle the big question.
Okay.
What exactly is an Apple Watch developer anyway?
Right.
Before we jump in, do yourself a favor.
Okay.
Try the 5 questions at theperfectdeveloper.com.
Yeah.
It'll help you get started on the right foot.
It's easy to assume they're just like any other app developer, but there's a lot more to it.
I bet.
They're not just building for a smaller screen.
Right.
They're building for a completely different way of interacting with technology.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Okay.
You glance at your watch for quick information.
Right.
Use it for specific tasks.
Uh-huh.
And expect it to seamlessly integrate with your iPhone.
Okay. So it's more than just shrinking down an iPhone app.
Exactly.
But what do they actually do all day?
Right.
I mean, what are the challenges that most people wouldn't even think about?
Well, for starters, they're juggling a ton of limitations.
Like it.
Battery life is a huge one.
Yeah.
Nobody wants their watch dying halfway through the day because of a power-hungry app.
Oh.
And then there's the user interface.
Right.
Designing for a tiny screen is a whole different ballgame.
Totally.
They need to make sure everything is glanceable, intuitive, and easy to navigate with a fingertip.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
It's like designing a whole experience on a postage stamp.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, I've heard these developers work with all sorts of cool health and fitness sensors on the watch.
Oh, absolutely. That's actually one of the things that sets Apple Watch developers apart.
Okay.
They're often working with HealthKit, which is Apple's framework for accessing all that health data from the watch.
Right.
If you're building a fitness app that's a must-have skill.
So how is this different from, say, hiring an iOS developer who builds for iPhones?
Okay.
Are those skills transferable, or am I looking for someone with a very specific background?
It's a great question, and the answer is it depends.
Okay.
There is some overlap, especially when it comes to programming languages like Swift.
Yeah.
But Apple Watch development requires a deep understanding of WatchOS, Apple's operating system for wearables.
Right.
They need to know the ins and outs of designing for those tiny screens, handling background tasks efficiently, and integrating seamlessly with the iPhone.
So it's like the difference between a general practitioner and a heart surgeon.
Yeah.
Both doctors, but with very specialized expertise.
Absolutely.
This is making me realize there's a lot more to this than I initially thought.
That's why it's so crucial to know exactly what you're looking for.
Right.
A resource like theperfectdeveloper.com can be incredibly helpful in navigating these nuances and finding the right fit for your project.
Okay, so I'm starting to get a clearer picture of what makes these developers unique. Now let's talk about something everyone wants to know.
Okay.
What kind of skills should I be looking for in a potential hire?
Right.
I mean, aside from being a WatchOS whisperer, of course.
Well, Swift is a must.
Okay.
That's the primary language for Apple Watch apps.
Makes sense.
And of course, UI/UX design is critical.
Right.
Remember, we're talking about tiny screens, so they need to make every pixel count.
It sounds like they need to be masters of minimalism, squeezing all that functionality into such a small space.
For sure.
What about things like Core Data and CloudKit?
Yeah.
I hear those thrown around a lot.
Those are essential for data management and seamless syncing between the watch and the iPhone.
Okay.
Core Data is Apple's framework for handling data storage.
Right.
And CloudKit lets them tap into iCloud for syncing and storage.
Don't forget about HealthKit and CoreMotion, especially if you're building those fitness apps we were talking about.
Oh, you're right.
HealthKit pulls in all the health and fitness data,
Yeah.
while CoreMotion helps developers access the watch's motion sensors.
You're absolutely right. These are all essential tools in an Apple Watch developer's toolkit.
Yeah.
And understanding them is key to building successful apps.
This is all starting to sound a bit intimidating.
Really?
All these technical terms.
I know, it can be a lot.
How can I, as someone who's not a developer myself, make sense of all this?
Well, that's one of the things I love about theperfectdeveloper.com.
Oh, yeah?
They don't just throw jargon at you.
Good.
They break it down in a way that's easy to understand, even if you're not a tech expert.
That's reassuring.
Good.
Okay, so we've got a good grasp on the skills.
Right.
But what about the cost?
Right. The money question.
What kind of salary are we talking about for these talented folks, and how does location factor into it?
Like any specialized role, location and experience play a big role.
Sure.
In the U.S., for example, you're typically looking at $80,000 to $150,000 per year,
Right.
with senior developers commanding the higher end of that range.
And what about elsewhere in the world? Is it comparable, or does geography really shake things up?
It definitely varies.
Okay.
In Europe, salaries can range from around 45,000 to 100,000 per year,
Wow.
depending on the country and the developer's level of experience.
So quite a range.
Yeah.
But here's where things get interesting.
Okay.
Hold that thought, because I think we need to dive into remote work and how that's changing the hiring landscape.
Good point.
We'll pick up right there in the next part of our mini deep dive.
Looking forward to it.
Don't forget, if you want to streamline your hiring process, theperfectdeveloper.com is an incredible resource.
Definitely check it out. You're right. Remote work has been a game changer.
Yeah.
It's opened up a global talent pool
Right.
for companies looking for Apple Watch developers.
I can imagine.
You're no longer limited to searching within a specific geographic area.
That's got to be a huge advantage, especially for companies looking for niche skills.
Absolutely.
But does that also affect salary expectations?
It does.
Okay.
I mean, if someone's working remotely from a location with a lower cost of living,
Right.
does that impact what they're likely to ask for?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's something to consider during negotiations.
Okay.
But remember, while remote work offers more flexibility,
Yeah.
it also brings its own challenges,
Such as?
like communication across time zones
Oh, yeah.
and ensuring effective collaboration.
It sounds like finding the right balance is key.
Definitely.
Speaking of which, you mentioned earlier that hiring for this role depends on the project.
Right.
Should I be looking for a full-time employee,
Okay.
or would a part-time or contract developer be a better fit?
That's where understanding your project needs becomes crucial.
Okay.
For ongoing projects or those complex large-scale apps,
Uh-huh.
a full-time developer might be the way to go.
That makes sense.
You
Yeah.
got someone dedicated solely to your project
Right.
who can really dive deep into the code base
Okay.
and become intimately familiar with its intricacies.
That makes sense for a long-term commitment.
Got it.
But what if I'm just starting out and need someone to build a quick prototype to test the waters?
Right.
Would a full-timer be interested in that kind of short-term project?
Probably not.
Okay.
And that's where part-time or contract developers really shine.
Okay.
They're perfect for those shorter-term projects.
Yeah.
Or when you're working with a tighter budget.
Makes sense.
Plus, they often specialize in specific areas,
Okay.
like HealthKit integration or UI design for watch faces.
Oh, wow.
So you can find someone with the exact expertise you need for that phase of your project.
So it's about aligning the type of developer with the stage of your project.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see why so many people get overwhelmed by the hiring process.
It can definitely feel daunting.
Yeah.
But remember, theperfectdeveloper.com can simplify the entire process.
I'm glad to hear it.
They'll help you define your project needs,
Okay.
understand the different hiring models,
Uh-huh.
and connect you with developers who are the right fit for your specific situation.
It's like having a personal guide through the hiring jungle.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about skills, salaries, and the pros and cons of different hiring models.
Right.
But let's face it, technical skills are only part of the equation.
True.
What about soft skills?
Yeah.
How do those factor into finding the perfect developer?
You've hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
Technical skills are essential.
Right.
But if they can't communicate effectively, collaborate with a team,
Uh-huh.
or handle tight deadlines, it's going to create headaches down the road.
So it's not just about finding a coding genius who can crank out lines of code in their sleep.
Right.
They need to be able to work effectively with others.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
During interviews, don't just focus on their technical prowess.
Right.
Dig a little deeper.
Okay.
Ask about their experience working on teams,
Uh-huh.
how they approach problem solving,
Okay.
and how they handle feedback.
Yeah.
You want someone who's not only talented, but also a pleasure to work with.
Someone who can explain those complex technical concepts in a way that mere mortals like me can understand.
Exactly.
And who doesn't panic when deadlines loom.
Precisely. Remember, you're not just hiring a developer. You're bringing someone into your team.
Right.
Cultural fit matters.
Okay.
Look for someone who aligns with your company's values and work style.
That makes a lot of sense. So where do I even begin to find these elusive Apple Watch developers?
Right.
I mean, it's not like they're just hanging out at the local coffee shop waiting to be discovered.
Well, you've got options.
Okay, good.
LinkedIn is always a great starting point.
Okay.
You can search for developers with specific skills and experience in WatchOS development.
Makes sense.
And don't be afraid to reach out to those who aren't actively looking for new roles.
How interesting.
Sometimes the best talent isn't actively searching.
What about those online platforms like Upwork and Fiverr?
Right.
Are those good places to look for Apple Watch developers?
Those platforms can be helpful for finding freelance developers, especially for shorter-term projects.
Right.
However, If you're looking for top-tier talent with a proven track record in WatchOS development, you might want to consider platforms like PopTall.
I've heard good things about TopTall.
Yeah,
They have a rigorous vetting process, right?
they do.
So you know you're getting someone who's been thoroughly vetted for their skills and experience.
Exactly. They pre-screen developers.
Okay.
So you can be confident you're getting access to a pool of highly skilled professionals.
And don't underestimate the power of good old-fashioned referrals.
Oh, that's a good point.
Referrals. It's amazing how often the perfect candidate is just a connection away.
For sure.
I'll definitely be tapping into my network. So let's say I've found a few promising candidates.
Okay.
What's the next step? How do I actually assess their skills and make sure they're the right fit?
Well, technical interviews are crucial.
Makes sense.
You can ask them to solve coding problems related to WatchOS, walk you through their thought process as they approach a design challenge, or even do a live coding session to see how they work in real time.
I love those live coding sessions. They really give you a sense of how a developer thinks on their feet.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to get creative with your assessments.
Okay.
Maybe give them a small project to complete, or ask them to review some existing code related to a WatchOS feature.
Those are great tips. It sounds like finding the right Apple Watch developer takes a bit of work.
Yeah,
But with the right approach, it's definitely doable.
it is.
And hey, if it all feels a bit overwhelming, theperfectdeveloper.com is there to guide you through every step of the process.
Exactly. They can take the stress out of hiring and help you find the perfect match for your project.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this part.
We have.
We've talked about the impact of remote work, pros and cons of different hiring models, the importance of soft skills, and even where to find these talented developers.
That's a lot to consider.
But the journey doesn't end there, right?
It does.
What about onboarding those new hires? How do you make sure they hit the ground running and feel like part of the team?
Onboarding is absolutely crucial.
Okay.
It's about setting them up for success from day one.
Yeah.
We'll dive into that in the final part of our mini deep dive.
Can't wait. All right, so we found our Apple Watch developer.
Yeah.
We wowed them in the interview, and they're officially on board.
Right. They're on the team.
But now what?
Now the real work begins.
How do we make sure they feel welcome,
Right.
get up to speed quickly, and actually thrive in this new role?
That's the key.
This is where onboarding comes in, right?
You got it. Onboarding is more than just handing them a laptop and pointing them to the coffee machine.
Right. It's not just the logistics.
It's about making them feel like a valued part of the team from day one.
I love that.
Think of it as setting the stage for their success.
Setting the step. I love that analogy.
Yeah.
But honestly, I remember starting new jobs and feeling a bit lost.
Sure.
Even overwhelmed at times.
Yeah.
Especially in a field as specialized as Apple Watch development.
It's a lot to take in.
What are some things companies can do to make that transition smoother?
One simple but powerful thing is assigning a buddy.
Okay, a buddy system.
Someone who can answer those day-to-day questions, offer guidance on internal processes, and just be a friendly face that can make a world of difference.
It's like having a Sherpa guiding you through the mountains of code.
Exactly.
But even with a buddy, there's so much to learn in this world.
It's true.
How do you avoid overwhelming a new developer with information overload on day one?
That's where a well-structured onboarding plan comes in.
Okay, structure is key.
Start with manageable tasks,
Ah,
gradually increasing complexity as they get comfortable.
okay.
Don't throw them into the deep end right away.
Right, ease them in.
Instead, focus on building their confidence and familiarity with the code base and team dynamics.
It's like learning to swim.
Yeah.
You wouldn't just chuck someone into the ocean.
Exactly.
You start in shallow end, get them comfortable.
Oh.
Then gradually move to deeper waters.
Yay.
What about ongoing support?
Okay.
How do you keep those new developers engaged and motivated once the initial excitement wears off?
Regular check-ins are crucial.
Okay, check in regularly.
Not just for project updates, but for open communication.
So more than just like status reports.
Yeah, ask them how they're feeling, what challenges they're facing, and what support they need. Offer constructive feedback.
Okay.
And encourage them to ask questions.
Make them feel comfortable speaking up.
Exactly.
And don't forget about opportunities for professional development.
Oh, that's so important.
The tech world is constantly evolving, especially in a fast-paced field like Apple Watch development.
You're absolutely right. Encourage them to attend conferences.
Oh, yeah.
Take online courses or even participate in internal workshops.
So invest in their growth.
Exactly. Investing in their growth not only benefits them,
Yeah.
but also your company in the long run.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground in this mini deep dive.
I know, right?
We've explored what makes Apple Watch developers unique, the skills to look for different hiring models,
Yeah.
the interview process,
Right.
and even the importance of onboarding.
It's all connected.
I feel like I've learned a ton.
Me too.
Any final words of wisdom for those ready to embark on this hiring adventure?
Hiring the right Apple Watch developer is an investment in your product and your team.
That's a good way to put it.
Remember to look beyond technical skills
Right.
and consider soft skills and cultural fit.
Yeah, make sure they're a good fit for the team.
Absolutely. And if you're feeling overwhelmed,
Yeah, it can be a lot.
don't hesitate to reach out to the experts at theperfectdeveloper.com.
Good advice.
They can guide you every step of the way.
Couldn't agree more. It's been a pleasure diving into this topic with you.
Likewise.
And for all of you listening, remember to try the 5 questions at theperfectdeveloper.com.
Yeah, great resource.
It's a fantastic tool to help you define your needs and get started on the right track. Until next time.
Happy developing.